2 to 4 pages, somewhere around there. And so all of it should contain information about where to get bus route information, how to book rides in a very, very basic sense. So if there's any specific questions, I recommend going to like the website associated with the organization. So like City Utilities Transit, I recommend going to their website or giving them a call. There's quite a bit of information that in that packet. So if there's any questions, um, I ask that you leave them toward the end so that way I can get through what I've got and I may answer your questions. So, okay. Yeah. So this is our August 2025 Get Wise in 45. And so this is a workshop that we're going to focus on transportation and resource options for transportation. So we approach this as kind of a multimodal, uh, meaning like multiple options to travel, meaning bus, private transportation like carpooling or driving your own or biking, scooters, different things like that. So we'll go more into detail as we go along. We'll start off with introducing our speakers. So my name is Afton. I'm our projects coordinator here at Empower Abilities, and I rely on public transport to get to and from work, to get across the city to and then I use I'm not very good at biking or scootering. I don't have the balance. So I rely on public transport and the good nature of my friends and family. So on the screen here we've got two pictures, one of me and our community outreach coordinator, Jen. And so this is a picture of us reading at the library. And so we read books um for youth and children in the area to educate them about disabilities and what it's like to the etiquette around service animals. And then the picture in the bottom right corner is our public policy and advocacy director, Shelby Butler, and she's over here in the audience. She's been with us for a long, long time, so she can usually give you specific details on advocacy things, and so she's wonderful, has a lot of connections throughout the Springfield community. So feel free to hold your questions to the end if you have any. So the just a little bit about our speakers. So I'll jump forward and we'll cover our main goal today is to learn about local transit options and how to plan your trip safely. So we'll start off with before we begin, I want to go over um, a few things. So if in case of a fire, the closest exit to you would either be the north entrance that I'm pointing toward that you probably entered in uh, through our lobby or through this is the west entrance of the community room, and you can exit out here and there's a door right outside. So those are our two main exits. And then if you need to use the restroom, you can pass through the doors to my right and you'll take a slight left and there's a little alcove that has the men's and women's restrooms over there. And there are accessible stalls in both of those restrooms. And if you need convoy supplies right now, uh, we're gonna kind of be toward the end of convoy here soon. So if you need convoy supplies, please let someone know now. So that way you can get your supplies. Uh, Other than that, we just want to make sure to again keep any anyone on Zoom, keep your mic off until you're ready to speak up, and please leave a comment first so then we know that you're ready to speak. Those of you in person, just feel free to write down your thoughts or questions, and then we'll have a whole like 10-15 minutes to hopefully have those questions answered. Um sorry. Um and then if any sirens or anything go off, then we would go to the shelters. Um we have a shelter on the first level here, but then we have a shelter in the basement too, which I don't foresee that. It's beautiful outside, so let's not worry about that today. Uh, then we will move on here about our workshop overview. So we'll go over biking, walking, and pedestrian safety. We'll go over um, public transportation and rideshare options. We'll go over private transport and rideshare options. Uh, some options to help you get groceries, medication, and things like that through delivery. Because sometimes that can make your transportation options a bit more efficient. So then you don't necessarily have to uh go go in person for everything. We then we will have a little breakout activity and um go over trip planning, and that'll be when we right before we end, we'll have you fill out a survey to give your thoughts and opinions on how we can make things better, or if you like what you've seen today, then we appreciate any and all feedback there. So moving forward, here's our slide on walking, biking, and scooters. So first of all, there's plenty of trails here in Springfield that you can go pretty far on. There's lots of paved options. There's also uh many places that um you can uh you can get information about pedestrian safety. So SGF Yields has a wonderful program that they try to advocate for pedestrians. So if you're walking places, they do try to do um, things to educate drivers. So then when you're walking, they you're kept safe. So the biggest thing is they've been doing yield checks throughout Springfield, where if you are a driver and you don't yield at a stop sign, or uh, you you aren't paying attention to your pedestrians, then that's something where they're trying to hold people more accountable and write tickets for whenever people aren't adhering to that law. Um, Also, for some safety things, when at night, make sure that you wear something bright or something that has fairly good contrast, because in the dark, it's hard to see dark blues like what I'm wearing today, or a sweatshirt that may be like black or brown. Those colors are hard to see at night. So if you do have something like that on, putting something reflective on, or a brighter color. So uh even having bright shoes can help. So then it stands out when a driver sees you on the side of the road or when you're walking on the sidewalk, because that keeps you safer. And then if you have any adaptive tools with you, like let's say you walk with a cane or a bicycle or something like that, you want to make sure you um have a reflective sticker on it, which I think we have some stickers from SGF Yield that are reflective too. So if you need one of those, let us know. We'll try to hunt one down and make sure you have something on to keep you safe. And when it comes to biking, make sure bikes are considered a form of transport, so make sure you're riding with the traffic, not against it, and using a helmet, and make sure that if there is a bike lane, to stay in the bike lane. So you don't want your bicycle completely on the sidewalk, taking up space that may cause issues for someone who's walking on the sidewalk. You want to be moving with the flow of cars. For anyone in Branson, they also have a scooter program. So Elevate Branson is another great option as far as scooters and things go. So something to consider when thinking about walking, biking, or scooters. Sometimes public transport isn't an option. The bus may not go far out. So if you have the vision or the stability, you could ride a bicycle or a scooter to a bus stop, wait there, and the buses are equipped to be able to mount your scooter, mount your bicycle onto at least, so you can take your bike with you.
So the picture on the screen is a scooter I took in Springfield, Arkansas. So they actually have seated scooters with 3 wheels. So what I think would be awesome is if we push the Springfield company to get something like that, because there are scooters that you can rent here in the downtown area.
Yeah.
Right, but would you rather ride something like that?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Since we have to walk everywhere. That would
Yes, yeah,
better.
yeah.
Would we approach that company that rents them, or would we approach the city?
I don't know. I think the city's working with them, so that might be the first place. And at the end, we do have an action, next steps kind of thing, so maybe we could talk about it.
Yes.
But I saw that, and I think people love it down there because they have trails and art museums. But anyway, I just threw that picture in there to show there are accessible scooters.
You can carry your groceries or packages with you on those.
Yes, that scooter's great. I think that scooter in the top right is definitely a good option for Springfield to consider incorporating into that multimodal option, so people can ride a scooter, ride a bike, or the buses. And then kind of moving on to the next slide, you've got public transportation and ride sharing options. So as you may know, City Utilities Transit is the main bus option in Springfield. So they have fixed routes. So a lot of their fixed routes are on the half hour or on the hour. So if you're unsure about that, they do have an app that's called My Ride SGF. So you can plan your trip through that app, and then you can still buy physical tickets from the transit center, or you can use their token transit app and buy tickets with your debit card or credit card through the token transit app. And the fare is $1.35, I think now. $1.35. And so for example, the stop out here near our center stops every half hour. So if you're taking this bus, you would just need to make sure you're out there 5 or 10 minutes before the bus shows up, and make sure that you're looking up at them, and because they very much go off of nonverbal cues. The bus drivers are looking for people who are ready to get on the bus, are waiting at the bus stop, so don't wander away from the bus stop. And then when you get on the bus, make sure you're asking is this line 9? Am I getting on the right bus to go to blank destination? So they know you're trying to get to where to your destination and not just you might you might not know that you're getting on the right bus. I for one can't read the signs on the bus, so then I always ask when I get on. Am I on the pink route? Am I going to Walmart? Well, then I at least I know I'm going to Walmart. And some buses cross over at the same spot too. So you definitely want to make sure you're checking the signage. Um, there is Oats. There are Oats buses that go around the Greene County area and I think a little bit beyond. Um, so Oats is another great option as if you have access to it and can afford it. It because it depends on what your needs are. I personally haven't rode on an Oats bus, but I know that for a lot of people it's a good accessible option because if you don't live within the Springfield city limits or near a bus stop, Oats is that option. And then Uber and Lyft. So Uber and Lyft are both available in Springfield, in Branson, in Rogersville, Republic, Ozark. All of these city areas have these rideshare options. Now they're depending on how far you're going and what your needs are, you may not always be able to find a ride if it's in the middle of the night and you're in the middle of nowhere. Um, I know I've tried to request Ubers in the middle of the night after weddings or different things when I've been out in Rogersville or Ozark or Pleasant Hope or different places like that because they're such small towns, there's no drivers. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Um, but if you're within the Springfield area or Branson area where there's a lot more people, you're a lot more likely to get drivers even in the middle of the night. But again, those costs may be more or less depending on the time of day because they have surge pricing where if there's a big request for drivers, then they have to raise the price to help their drivers feel incentivized to come in and have more drivers to help. Um, so on an average, you in the Springfield area, you're going to pay between like $10 and $25. Um, Now when you go toward the airport, it's going to cost a little more because those it's kind of far out there. It's a little harder to get to, and the prices are pretty comparable between Uber and Lyft. I do recommend checking both when if you're using a rideshare app. And then for safety purposes, when they get there, when they get to your pickup location, make sure you ask who they're picking up for. So my name's Afton, so I'd say, "Who are you picking up for?" And they would say, "I'm looking for Afton." And I want to make sure they know my name because it will display in the app that your name, your profile, but they don't get very much information. So just making sure that you're staying safe and not getting in the wrong car either. Because they do display the license plate, the name of the car, like the type of car and the car color, but you can't always count on those. And you always want to make sure you're just double checking with the person. And I always check on Google Maps too. Google Maps is a great option when you're checking routes because it's gotten very detailed where you can see where stoplights are now, where sidewalks are. They don't have as much detailed information as I'd like. I'd love to see them mark where there are steps or ramps. That would be excellent. But we're works in progress, so we'll hopefully get that feedback to Google someday. Yeah, and so some scenarios that you might fall into are maybe you live in Republic and you need to get to Springfield for a doctor's appointment. How are you getting there? Are you taking a rideshare service? Are you taking Oats? How are you getting there? And then there's private transportation and carpooling. So this is one where I say uh isn't always available to us because not everyone has a support system where they live. But but I encourage you to try to build one because you may not always be able to drive, or you may have a procedure, you may have an eye condition develop, or you may go to the doctor and they dilate your eyes so you can't drive after, or you may be under medication that makes you unable to drive. So make sure you're building a support system, and that can just mean having friends or family that you know of that you can call and say, hey, next week I do have a ride to my doctor's appointment, but in case they cancel, would you mind picking me up and taking me there? And and I encourage you, if you do rely on friends and family, make sure you have the means to be able to give back. And that can mean um, helping them pay for gas, or you can sometimes I trade food, like if I've made a loaf of bread and I know they like fresh bread, well then, offering bread, bartering is not off the table here. A lot of people like a lot of people like to trade. So it's okay to ask. Worst case scenario, someone says no to you. And um make sure to get the details from them, be clear on your pickup time. My appointment's at 9. I know your house is 20 minutes away, so you might want to get here around 8:15 because I need to get to my appointment 10 minutes early, and maybe it takes 10 minutes to get to the appointment. So, giving yourself plenty of time, making sure you're ready by the time they get there, and then also make sure that you have their contact information, whether that be their phone number, or if they prefer email, or even a video call is fine. Just some way to get a hold of them beforehand and during the day of your trip. Um, yes, and then there's New Growth Transit here in some of our rural counties, which is a volunteer program, and there's faith-based options in Greene County that will help you with transportation. I don't have the details up here, but you can definitely call them and ask if it's available. I know in um I know that New Growth Transit is trying to expand to more areas because I believe they're funded through like a Medicaid program. So they definitely want the volunteers. They definitely want people using their ride, using them to book rides. So definitely look into these options. And then we'll move toward non-emergency medical transport. I'm not going to read everything on this slide because that gets pretty into detail, but just so you know, City Utilities provides non-emergency medical transportation through their paratransit. So if you have a qualifying disability, which sounds very vague, but you go through their application process, and they can sign you up for paratransit, and they would drop you off at dialysis appointments or different things that you may need. Um, um, yeah, and so through Medicare Advantage plans, this is a slide that Jen made, so I'm just like I'm not well versed in Medicaid and Medicare, but I know Medicaid and Medicare will help cover transportation costs when it comes to getting to doctor's appointments or to maintain your health or independence in that way. So these are some options here on the screen, MTM and um, Cox Health, uh, um, and looks like, yeah, through Senior Advantage. And so there's quite a few options as far as when it comes to doctor's appointments and that non-emergency, meaning when I say non-emergency, you're not going to the emergency room saying, "Hey, I'm having heart palpitations." So just to clarify, if you need emergency transportation to the hospital, that's where I recommend um you know uh uh taking the word is slipping my mind, taking the like a paramedic, like taking the yes, thank you. I couldn't think of the word ambulance. Taking an ambulance if you're having a medical emergency. And so then as far as delivery options, uh for medications, many like CVS, Walmart, Walgreens, those are some of the major options that I have listed up here. There are some local pharmacies that will help you with uh medication delivery, like APO Pharmacy and Alps Pharmacy. Those are a couple of local options. So if you're having trouble with medications, getting them delivered, these are options. You would still have to pay your copay if you had any copay through your insurance, but the delivery shouldn't cost you through some of these. And then we also have delivery options for groceries. So Walmart Plus is great. It's what I use at least to get groceries delivered to my home because I can't carry a jug of milk and 10 other items. Um and I mean, if you do need to physically go into Walmart, you can still use the Walmart app to locate the items you need. So it will sync if you have the location, if you have your location allowed for that app, it'll tell you, oh, that's going to be in aisle G4. And so then you can go to aisle G4 and pick up your items a little quicker. Um, and Walmart Plus does cost. It has a monthly and annual membership, but it's not too bad if you budget right. It is if you can fit it within your budget. But Hy-Vee and I believe Aldi delivers as well. Um, yeah. And then there's Amazon Fresh and Instacart, which Instacart has lots of options, and they're free for some things, but you still have to pay delivery costs if you're doing it that way. Instacart has a subscription base. I can't remember how much it costs. But if you install the app, it will tell you how much things will cost before you ever pay for them. And then there are some local um food delivery options that are like food pantries. Um, and I haven't personally gotten anything from these places, so you may have to call and double check. Um, the yeah, so Ozarks Food Harvest, Cross Lines, and Victory Mission. So those are the main three that I put up here. Um, but please feel free, do your own research for some of these because I didn't put every single delivery service up here. I just highlighted a few.
So I will add, and I'm not sure if this works, but there are some neighborhoods through Lewis Foundation over on the north side is one of them where they're doing, it's called like farm to fresh, where they're bringing in fresh vegetables and then it's just basically like an open kitchen where people can go in and get produce.
Oh, yeah.
So if, I don't know, you probably would need to check with the neighborhood you're in, so I'm not sure like over here if there's anything. But they may allow people to come in too, like the Drew Lewis Foundation, you might be able to go there even if you don't live in that area.
Right.
I've just been really impressed. It's remember the name of the organization, but they're planting all these seeds and then they deliver the produce.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, Springfield Community
Yeah.
Gardens is a great option, yeah.
But you might not have to go very far to get fresh vegetables.
Right. Yeah, Springfield Community Gardens. That's a good one. Yeah, I should have put that on the slide. And then we have some trips for plant uh for sorry. Yeah, trip planning steps and safety. So we will talk a little bit about planning ahead, making sure you have the right the right gear with you, making sure you have backup plans if needed, and confirming your ride, just making sure you have all your details. I personally, I'm a list person. I make lists for everything. So I always have a list like so and so's giving me a ride. Okay, what's my backup? Am I taking an Uber? Do I have the money for an Uber? And how much is that Uber going to cost me? So then I sometimes pretend like I'm booking an Uber. I'm like, I'm going to book it now. What does that look like? How much is that going to cost me? Is that going to cost me $25? Or do I need to budget for like $50 to get there? So again, these are just some things to think about as you plan trips in the future. Okay, so this is where we have our breakout session activity. And so it's just some questions for you to think about, and you might chew on these with your neighbor, and I'll have Shelby lead this a little bit.
There's options. It just gives you some thoughts to consider. So what transportation would you try? So based on all the things we went over, what transportation would you try? That would be one question. How would you plan the route? So that would be another. What would you need to check ahead of time? So just things to think about to make sure, you're checking ahead of when you leave. Who would you call for help? And would you need to change anything about your normal routine? So depending on how far you're going or what kind of option you're choosing. So those are just some things to think about. And then we're going to give you some scenarios. So we can just talk as a group or you can talk amongst yourselves. It's kind of up to you. So if you go to the next slide. Okay, so the first scenario. So your usual ride to the grocery store cancels last minute, but you still need to go today. So based on some of those things, what could be a backup? Walking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think too, especially if you're looking for a place to live, maybe looking around to see what grocery stores are in the area. Maybe some of the things are come and go. So if you can't get all the way over to Hy-Vee, maybe you could get one or two things that come and go that day. But yeah, walking definitely. And if you can walk, it's sometimes quicker than traffic. And I don't know, what other benefits do you feel walking gives you? Shortcuts?
Shortcuts and and it's also healthier too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're moving and getting exercise.
Depending on the weather,
Yeah, that's true.
sometimes, it's not healthier to be out in it if it's too hot or too cold or
Yeah.
whatever, ice, snow, whatever it can be. Yeah. Normally it's healthier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really hot this summer, so
Yes.
there've been some days. And then, so if you weren't expecting to take your usual ride and did need to walk, you'd want to have good shoes or an umbrella if you thought it was going to rain, just thinking about all those things ahead of time. Okay, so another one is,
Looked at kind of like here and there because sometimes I overpack or overtake whatever, but it's just to be on the safe side than the sorry one, especially when you're gonna be out for hours on end.
Mm-hmm.
Anything could happen, and sometimes my girls are like, what are you doing? Why are you taking that, or why you do this? Yeah, well, they found out several times the reasons why, because things have popped up.
and you're
like we're
already
talking
ready.
about, and
Yeah.
I'm prepared for what may. Yeah.
I
Because
would
it's happened a lot to us.
suggest Yeah, I would suggest personally, this has happened to me where I go to the grocery store and I think I'm just gonna pick up a couple of things. And then I get way too much. So maybe if you're walking, make a list so that you don't end up with too many groceries that you can't carry back. I don't know if that,
I have to have a
that's
cart.
good, yeah.
I can't carry things.
A collapsible shopping cart,
Yeah,
yeah.
collapsible shopping cart, I bet that's a good investment.
That might melt in the heat.
Yes,
Instead of cooler time of day or
yes, that's
late
good.
today or shift. It's gonna.
Yeah, that's a good idea too, to think about, yeah, what time of day it is, because
If it's your last stop, or if you're gonna have to drag cold things around, yeah, 3 more stops. Then
Yeah. And even if you do drive, I feel like just planning your route, I always try to make a big circle to cut back on gas. Gas can be very expensive and time. So, and that's another thing, like, okay, my last stop will be ice cream or like rotisserie chicken, because I got that at the beginning. Yes, yes, grocery store last stop. Yeah. Okay, good. So the next one is you want to go visit a friend, but the elevator at your subway station is out of service. So we don't really have to deal with this here, but I do remember going to Washington DC. And I was with someone that used a wheelchair and the escalator elevator was out. We couldn't get down to the subway. So any ideas? Just so that might be when, if you're comfortable riding the bus, if there's a subway and a bus, but if the bus is out of service and you're used to riding the bus, that might be something we would deal more with. Maybe seeing if your friend can meet you halfway. Or changing the location of where you meet so they can come to you. Doing the Zoom call with your friend.
To a different day.
Yeah, maybe it's not gonna work out.
Can't do it that time.
And I would say on an advocacy level, you could actually call the subway station and say, hey, did you realize that limiting service is not okay? And we need to be able to get to the subway. The elevator's supposed to be working at all times, so that would be a good way to do some advocacy. Anything else you guys can think of? You want to go see your friend really bad? Subway, you can't get there. That's true. Maybe there's an alternate route that you don't know about. That's a good idea. Yeah. Okay, there's a free concert in the park this weekend. You want to go, but your usual ride is unavailable.
Oh, man.
Is this happening this weekend? Okay, you really want to go, but usually you ask someone and they're not available.
You might see if
So maybe there's someone else who wants to go to the concert. You can call up another friend and say, hey, it's free. Like Afton said, you could bake him a loaf of bread. Afton's bread is really good. I would give her a sourdough. She does the sourdough starters. Yeah, or maybe you just yeah.
Maybe one of us.
We just have a concert at Afton's house. But yeah, maybe you can't get there and you just listen to some music at home. Dance in your kitchen or something.
yeah, or call an Uber or Lyft if you have the funds.
Maybe it's live, or maybe someone you know is there and just call you on their phone and I found you or whatever.
I've done that before.
And that is the thing about today's world. We do have ways, like even today, if you couldn't make it, you could get on Zoom or watch the recording later. So that does make it easier if you have to miss something. Okay, a couple more. Your wheelchair battery dies at the bus stop and you're alone. This one would be scary when I've seen that.
I stayed for someone I felt like that. Somebody that
Really. And I think, any device that takes a battery, just thinking about that ahead of time, like how far will this battery take me? And do I have it fully charged? Um, again, when I was in Washington DC, I was with someone and I think it was raining and the scooter got wet. So the battery didn't die, but something happened and couldn't keep going. So we literally had to find like an office somewhere where we could sit and like dry it out. So um, using, wheelchairs and even scooters, some scooters take gas, but some are electric. So if you don't have it charged, it could die. So just being aware. Uh, but if you have your cell phone and you can call someone to help you, but maybe having a list of numbers available, that ahead of time, I can call these people and they might be able to help. Um, or if someone can come with a portable charger, I don't know, that might be possible.
Make sure your phone's charged before you leave.
Yes, and yeah, my
Both
phone,
of them dying.
yeah, I don't know even my laptop, I've been kind of watching it because it's not charging right now, just always knowing how much battery life you have left. Important. Okay, what about this one? You just got a job offer. How will you get to and from work every day? Especially using something new, like if you're gonna use the bus or I think this is more just like, are you gonna make a plan? Are you gonna practice before you start, just so you know, allow enough time if there's a mishap that happens. Um, 'cause having a job is important and you don't wanna risk that being late or not being able to show up.
Some of the buses, some of the time, now since they've changed everything. Now the buses leave on the hour or right on the 30, like 8:30, so it'll leave right then. It's not gonna sit there and wait on you. The buses used to be able to transfer and translate to the other bus. Can you stay? We've got people wanting to get on your bus now. You don't have that option. If that bus doesn't, meet right there at that time, you miss your bus, then you miss your appointment. And you have to cancel it, because that's happened to me a lot.
Well, and I think with a job, like if you were looking for a job, that would be important if you don't have your own car, is to figure out where you would, like, what would you use to get there ahead of time before even maybe applying. So that could be something people need to think about. I'm sure April, tells people if you have to ride the bus, is that job on the bus line? Because if it's not, and you don't want to have to walk in your work clothes in the heat or hurry, if there is a bus stop, but it's not close enough for you to get there. So I think all those things. But doctor's appointment is the next one. And so that one, say you're taking paratransit or the bus and you're delayed an hour. I don't know if there's much you could do in that scenario, but
Normally there isn't any backup. I don't have somebody that I can call and say, yeah, and then just turn on the phone back home, call them and let them know what happened and explain your situation. Most of the time they won't, they can't do anything about it because you're supposed to call 24 hours, before and canceling, there's like 2, minutes or maybe even 2 hours before or something. Yeah. Then you get, down, then it's not your fault. You didn't do it. It's just something that happens, but they have to go by their policy and their rules and their things. Yeah. You get in trouble and sometimes booted out of there. Make it.
they give you so many chances. So, yeah. I think maybe just giving them a heads up. I don't know if it would change anything, but hey, I'm taking public transportation today, just in case. Like my dentist gives me 10 minutes. I know that, which I'm always pulling them right over 10 minutes, but talking with them maybe ahead of time just to say what is the buffer.
Go by their group house. Yeah. Which I get, everybody has to do that, everybody has their things that they do, but certain things in certain situations, I think things should be bent a little bit.
It'd be more
bent a little bit here and there, but it's just not.
Well, and even just with paratransit, I know if you're late coming out when they are there to pick you up, they only give you a certain amount of time, and if they may leave right often, and
It's 3 minutes.
okay, so that's not very much. So even planning your ride to pick you up could be very important, because if you put it right on the dot and your appointment runs over and you're not out there for your pickup ride, so it can be really tricky, and not everyone has a lot of extra time, but just trying to give yourself like either getting there 30 minutes early or scheduling the ride to pick you up later. Those are just a few scenarios. There are so many others that can happen, but the point is just to kind of think about hypothetical situations just to make your brain think, what would I do? Or especially, you know, as you start getting out into the world and I know, but I know my son and
They're watching.
my son does not like to be late. So I'm like, okay, well, that's good. Just keep on yourself because I'm always the one trying to get us there. But okay, I'll turn it back to Afton.
All right. So now that we've given you all this information, now you'll plan your next trip. So we've put some tips up here to help you kind of plan your next trip. So thinking about, walking, biking, and scooter safety, making sure if you're on wheels, then you're moving like a car. So making sure that you move with traffic but then not into traffic. um but also not into pedestrians either. Um and then public transit or ride share. So, there's always ride share options. Again, make sure if you see that as an option, budget for it. And I can't always guarantee the accessibility of the vehicles because they're just private owner vehicles, but these but sometimes the driver's willing to help you if it's just a cane you're using, or maybe you just need um to scoot over in the back seat a little extra, and take up a little more space in the back seat. If it's just you, they usually don't mind. So safety with ride sharing too, though. Make sure you check that it's the right vehicle. It's okay to ask extra questions and be unsure. And you can share your trip oftentimes through those apps too. So let's say, my friend Shelby's riding home in an Uber, and she's feeling a little scared. Maybe she's not familiar with the driver, maybe she's never taken an Uber before. So then she can share her ride with me through the app and say, hey, I want you to track where I'm going, so you make sure I get home on time and at my actual location that I wanted to get to. And then plan and prepare for every trip. Like what you were saying, you can never have too many things to plan with. Make sure you have an umbrella. If it looks cloudy outside, go ahead and grab a rain jacket or an umbrella, and wear appropriate shoes. So if you're going to be walking, put on some shoes that are comfortable, whether those be sandals, tennis shoes, boots, whatever you need to do. Dress appropriately. I keep a I keep a battery, like a charging brick, with me at all times. So then if I'm stranded somewhere and my phone battery is getting low, I can charge it up. And they sell those fairly cheap on Amazon. So make sure if you don't have one of those, it's good for emergency preparations too. So next steps, using so this is where you can use your handout that we gave you to help look at your transportation options for where you are. Looking at if you qualify for paratransit, looking at paratransit options. Contacting any local organizations or options that may be beneficial to you as far as grocery delivery, any medication delivery. You can also start installing those apps now, Token Transit, My Ride SGF. There's many apps like Walmart, CVS, Walgreens. These all deliver, again, at a cost for some, but then, what's the cost of convenience sometimes? If I can't make it there, sometimes I'm willing to pay to get it to me. And then make your transportation plans for work appointments and and emergencies ahead of time. Make sure those plans are, are clearly made. And when you schedule those, make sure you tell people when you need to be there by and when you want to be picked up at, because those are two different times. Because if your appointment's at 9, you need to be picked up maybe closer to 8:30 or 8:15. And then, always keep a backup plan in mind. So if, if I'm your ride to the doctor, maybe you still have a backup plan of, well, I know that the line 9 will always be over here, going every 30 minutes. So maybe I can catch the line 9 at 8:15 or 8:30. So those are just some things to keep in mind. And then this is our engage and take action slide. So we have information about Missouri Transit access and employment, Easter Seals, accessible community transportation, and then a master plan on aging. So I believe these are just some resources that you can tap into to get more information and get involved. And then how you can advocate for better transportation services, because let's face it, they can always be better. Always. No matter, even if you live in a big city or out in the middle of nowhere. Transportation is always, always, always an issue, especially for people with disabilities. And then now is the perfect time for questions. We left some time here at the end. We've got, well, I guess we're a little over time. That's okay. So we'll leave time for questions here. So let us know what you think. Yes, and now is the time that we're distributing those evaluation surveys. So if you have any thoughts about our workshop, or if you have any ideas for future workshops, or you just want to say, hey, you guys did a great job, thank you. That's the perfect place to do it. We love the feedback. And if you have any other questions, feel free to grab us afterwards too. If something comes up, you can ask us and we'll be happy to explain a little more. Or if you need help help navigating the transit system a little bit more, maybe you need some further guidance, that's something that our independent living specialists can help you work on. So feel free to reach out. And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for coming in today for our workshop. And we always appreciate anyone who attends our workshops, because we put a lot of effort into these and we love to see the smiling faces.
So I'm thanking you back for having